Hey guys, Score with Camel ADV. We've got our KTM 790 Adventure R here. Have had it for a couple of months and have been doing a lot of really fun riding with it. Have tackled a couple of trail sections that I have not been able to do on bigger bikes, my 990, my Africa Twin, my 1190R. Have not successfully got through some of these sections and have had no problem whatsoever with the 790. It is a fantastic off-road bike. There's a few things that I miss from the other bikes to this one, and one of them is the friction zone with the clutch. I find it to be really narrow. It's kind of more off-on than some of the other bikes. So I wanted to do something to correct that. The other thing is it doesn't have the same low-end grunt as some of the bigger displacement bikes. So I find that I'm clutching a lot more, and I've got carpal tunnel in the left arm from clutching, not with this bike, just throughout the riding season. I get it, and then it goes away in the off season. So I was looking for something that was going to give me a little bit lighter clutch pull and give me a larger friction zone, so it's a little bit easier to modulate the clutch in the off-road sections. Came up with the one finger clutch setup. So it includes an anodized billet aluminum clutch arm that is 3/4 of an inch, 19 millimeters longer than the factory arm. This is the factory location of the factory hole. That's the normal length. And then we've added 2 more after that, so you can kind of tune how you want your clutch engagement, how big you want the friction zone to be. And then there is a TIG welded stainless steel hose guide piece. Come on, focus. That replaces the stock one. And then we've got some stainless steel hardware here as well. We've got the clevis end. Focus. We've got the clevis end that goes on the end of the arm. We've got the stainless steel pin that holds the clevis on, the cotter key, and a stainless steel bolt that slides in to there. So that replaces all of the factory bits, and we've got, this is 60% longer than the stock piece, so we get a 60% bigger friction zone, and we get a lighter clutch pull. And I've got a scale here, and we'll do some testing with the scale to see what the actual difference with the clutch pull is. And the install is super easy, so we'll get at that. I put 2 zip ties on here as a landmark, so our large zip tie will go between those, and that's just to make sure that we get an even reading between the two, make sure that we've got the same amount of leverage. I've added a little bit of masking tape over the rubber grip, so we get a little bit of friction when we're dragging the zip tie over the rubber grip. So this takes a bunch of that away, and we'll leave that on for the other clutch as well. This guy's zeroed right now. Get it on the grooves there. Pull 10, 12, 13, 14, 14, 4, 14, 5. 14, 5, 6. Yeah, 14, 6 is the maximum that we're getting with the stock clutch lever setup. So this is the clutch arm here that we're replacing, and the cable guide plate. Factory clutch arm here, just going to take a paint pen, and you've got the gap here where the arm pinches onto the shaft, and you just want to put a dot right there, so we know where to line up the replacement arm. And then you take the pinch bolt out here. The factory KTM one is a Torx bit. I misplaced it at some point along the way, so we've got the regular Allen bolt in there. So that's factory arm. Factory arm compared to the new one, you can see the length difference. So the first hole is the factory length, and then these guys are the bigger ones. So we take the new arm, put a little bit of grease in the hole that we want to use, put the clevis on, take the pin, slide it through, and then a little baby cotter key here through the hole in the back. So then take your needle nose and get the cotter key bent around the pin. so. So we're gonna drop the arm on the shaft. So we've got the orange mark lined up with the slot. And just make sure when you do this that there's a little bit of room here. The longer arm will contact the tank, so you want to make sure that when you are turning this shaft that you still have some free play. This is the point right here where the clutch starts to bite, so you want to make sure that you have some free play behind that. And if you don't get it exactly on the dot, that's fine. We can adjust with the cable. So now we're going to come back to the cable guide. There's a little rubber cap here. Just going to pull that guy off. Set it aside. Get 12 mil wrench and loosen the nut that's holding the cable. Eight mil bolts here, 8 mil head. Just take those off. And then you can pull that cable guide off. So we've got the new cable guide compared to the old one. The reason we need to change this one out for this one is with the extra length on the arm, the cable comes in at a different angle. And if we use this, the cable ends here and then the inner part of the cable bends over and you get some friction there, and then you also get some wear on the edge of the cable because it's not lined up properly. We're going to take the bolts here to hold the cable guide on, dab blue Loctite on them. Actually get this started first. And put our cable guide nut back on. We're just going to leave that loose right now because we need to do some adjusting to get the free play on the clutch lever right. And we've got the rubber cap. So the rubber cap, to get it back on, can be a little finicky. So if you take needle nose vice grips and just clamp them right here, don't do it too hard. You don't want to damage the cable, but you do want to keep it from pushing back in. And I'm going to take this. I'm going to swing the arm in, get it onto the clutch. So with that on, we're going to check our free play. This one is not terrible. It's a little bit tight, so you have some adjustment up at the bars, and you also have some adjustment here. Since we're down here, we're gonna use the adjustment here, and it needs a little more free play. So we're gonna move this nut back a little bit, and that's gonna give us, that's about right there. I'm pretty close with the free play right now at the lever, so I'm going to tighten the nuts here on the cable. When you go to tighten the nuts here, you might want to put a wrench on the second nut, or on both nuts I should say, to keep the cable itself from turning. Nice and snug. A little bit of free play there. So with this all buttoned up, we can lower the bike and check the free play at the lever. So in the owner's manual on page 302, on the 2019 manual anyway, it gives the spec at 5 millimeters, which this is probably closer to 10, and this lever is docked. So my measurement is going to be a little bit less. 4 is probably the spec. So I'm going to loosen off the jam nut here, the thumb screw, and we're going to screw out the smaller diameter one to take out a little bit of that free play. So that's pretty good there. If you don't run enough free play, or you don't have any free play, you basically are partially engaging the clutch while you're riding, so it will start to slip and you'll burn out the clutch prematurely. So we've got our scale here zeroed out again. Put the big zip tie around. And the previous measurement, 14.6, was the highest that we got. So I'm expecting this guy to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 10. Nine two, 9.4. Zeroed. Nine 3, 9.6. Right at the end here went over to 10 when it hit the bar. So 9.8. So 9.8 to 14.6. So a significant difference in this is about a third lighter. So even with the shorty lever, I can one finger this no problem. That wraps up the install video for the one finger clutch setup on the KTM 790. With this installed on your bike, you've got a 60% larger friction zone, which makes modulating the clutch off-road much easier. If you ride in stop and go traffic, it is also a huge help. It's also beneficial to people with arthritis or carpal tunnel syndrome like I have. It really helps with the forearm pump and the arm fatigue when you're clutching a lot in that off-road situation or in the heavy traffic. If you have any questions about the product, feel free to give me an email, info@camel-adv.com. Thanks for watching.